Welcome back, Ross the Wars. It's across the pond here. We've got our usuals, Mike from the Legion, and we've got Ross from the Unicorns, and then myself, Nathan with the Saints. It's good to be back. We gave you a week break and the weekend off to sort of catch up on other podcasts. But look, it's been yet again another busy week. I think this free agency period has probably been one of the busiest and the most eventful. I think arguably of all time. What do you guys think so far over the last week or so, Mike and Ross? How are you guys?
Yeah, hi Nathan. Hi. I think it's been amazing the last couple of days. Certainly the quarterback roundabout with Helen and the Tyreek and Adams sort of effect. So we're looking forward to talking about going forwards.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's the most exciting free agency I've ever been part of, and trades. There's so many trades now. I don't know why suddenly the NFL's started to realise that trades are a good way of acquiring players. It's sort of copycat league, and now that they've seen the Rams won the Super Bowl by doing it and just not drafted anyone, then everyone's doing the same.
No, I think it's very, as you say, it's sort of win now, and it's making sure that you get the players, the tangible asset. The players that you know are ready to go, as opposed to sort of building for the future and sort of going on from there. But look, let's fire straight through. Let's think of the Deshaun Watson trade. Obviously, that was the trade that obviously rocked the world and a lot of the NFL, and especially sort of being a New Orleans Saints man and sort of watching it from my point of view, it was obviously touch and go right up until the last day, and then he suddenly sidewind and flipped to the Browns. Ross, what was your whole take on the trade value itself and the trade and Watson and his potential and the whole Brown setup?
Well, I think the trade value seemed about right. Especially when you look at some of the trades for other premium players. So obviously that we're going to talk about later on. I think the 3 firsts plus a few other things was about right, and the 3 firsts were over 3 years as well. So that's better for the Browns. The thing that was surprising to me, and obviously that's the thing that got over the line, is the guaranteed money. Like, the whole contract is completely guaranteed, and he got 230 million, I think it is, over 5 years. That's crazy. That's absolutely crazy for the risk involved in trading for Deshaun Watson. Obviously, we know he's a good player when he plays, if he's going to be able to play, but that risk is there, and it seems like they've traded for him without thinking about the risk at all. And obviously, they've then alienated their previous QB in the midst of it.
No, exactly. Mike, do you sort of share the same sort of opinion?
Yeah, he's a great player, but it's the baggage that's coming with him. I think today they've announced the second grand jury in a different district now being convened, and should be sitting this week to say what's going on. Obviously, the first one didn't come off, but there's no guarantee the second one doesn't proceed further. So you never know. And then, of course, you've got the fact that the NFL will probably ban him for X amount of games anyway. So, and yeah, 230 million over 5 years, and he might miss most of the first season. It's quite an investment to have, and as you say, alienate your current QB, who you might need at some point, because you might need him for the first 5 or 6 games.
No, exactly. It's crazy, and as you said, it's going to divide a lot of opinion. I know a lot of sort of the fan base, and I know between us three, I know we obviously listen to Around the NFL quite often, and Mark Sessler is a big fan of the Browns, and he's turning his back on the Browns, which is obviously quite a extreme stance to take, but you sort of respect them and standing up for that and saying the way it is. But everyone to their own, really. The big thing from what I heard with the Watson trade is that, as Ross pointed out, it is fully guaranteed, and apparently even if there is sort of suspensions and if he does miss games, he still doesn't lose money. It's all agreed sort of in his contract to either sort of move it down the line or when he plays, or just make sure that he gets his money, which is quite, it's quite crazy to believe. And as you say, Mike, it'll be interesting to see what sort of comes of these new sort of jury charges, whatever sort of coming to the plate now. But I think all of us can quite clearly see maybe the sleeper out there is that legend Jacoby Brissett, Mr. Brissett there. I think he's going to be flying off free agencies around the world.
They've certainly chosen a similar quarterback to Watson to back him up, right? So they'll obviously set the plan out to work the same way, get mobile and try and use his legs as much as his arms. So I guess they've obviously thought about it a little bit, but at the same time, it could be a very expensive mistake. I guess we'll only find out in weeks to come. But
exactly. Look, Ross, let's take sort of the unknown away from this, in the sense that let's assume Deshaun Watson starts week 1. Very unlikely, but for conversation's purpose here, we'll treat it as if Deshaun Watson's not suspended. That whole Browns team, does the whole team get a bump? Does the whole team suddenly become really valuable? Where are you looking fantasy value wise?
Yeah, definitely, 100%. So Amari Cooper's obviously just joined them when he was joining with Baker Mayfield or whoever it was going to, Jimmy G potentially as the quarterback. He went as hot, but now that he's got Deshaun Watson, he can produce, and he can produce in bad situations. So with the infrastructure around him in Cleveland, then with the strong run game, then that everyone there is going to be a top fantasy producer. Obviously, maybe temper expectations for Cooper and not have him as the wide receiver 1, but he's definitely going to be a wide receiver 1 and be in that maybe 10 to 15 range for me, I think. And then you look at Donovan Peoples-Jones as well, who had a really good season last year, but he just, for his skill set as a deep receiver, he just wasn't getting the ball enough. And that's why his real life production outweighed his fantasy production. But now that they've got someone who can get him the ball, you might see a Will Fuller-esque sort of fantasy performance from him.
Yeah, he can certainly stretch the field, can't he? So that'll be a definite plus for him on that side, having a guy with an arm that can hit him. So.
No, absolutely, and another sort of sneaky one to sort of keep your eye on is Sam, our beloved Hatteras goats, or however you call them. Sam's a big fan of his little legend David Njoku, and I think Njoku could be also a little bit of a sleeper there with sort of Hooper out of the picture now, and obviously once again we're assuming Watson plays most of the season, but that's definitely another target option for him. Look, let's keep on the sort of quarterback train, this turnstile here. Matty Ice, was this obvious in the end? I would also like to claim, I feel like in episode 2, I might have slightly put this out into the atmosphere by suggesting Matty Ice to the Colts, and I don't know how many believers were out there, but what was everyone's thoughts? Mike, what do you think of the trade, and do you think Atlanta disrespected him? What's your feel on the whole situation?
No, I think Atlanta treated him fine. I think they've ridden with him for a long time. The assets round him's fallen away really. So I think they've cashed in quite cheaply on a third. Really, I think the outlay from the Colts. I think he's an upgrade from Wentz. I think he's steadier than Wentz, so that should hopefully increase Pittman's production and the other guys around him. And it's a cheap experiment. If he works this year, he gets another year's extension. They're more than happy. But if it doesn't work, it's only his third year. His last year of a contract. I think he's no guaranteed money after this year, so they can wash their hands off for a third rounder. I think it's clever from the Colts. I think it's better than going for Jimmy G. It's going to cost them, would have cost them 2 firsts or something. I think his value's gone down. We'll talk about that later. But or Baker, I think it's a safer pair of hands with a very good O-line and a good defense and some good pieces. So I think that's quite a good move for the Colts.
And sort of, Ross, why do you think, or do you even think, is this trade any different to the Phillip Rivers move to the Colts?
It's similar, but I think Matty Ice maybe has a couple more years in him. Rivers looked like he was only 1 year out no matter what. And I do like Phil Rivers, but I think Matt Ryan might hit the nail on the head. He's an upgrade. He's relatively cheap, so it's a no-brainer move from the Colts.
Yeah, no, I tend to agree as well. I think this benefits that whole offense. I think JT, we already realized the study could be, and we know Carson Wentz obviously feeds running backs relatively well, but I think Jonathan Taylor will appreciate this, because defenses will obviously set up a bit more tentatively, knowing that Matty Ice can pick apart passes and pick apart defenses. We're talking about a season campaigner, one of the top all-time passing yards quarterbacks. Look, I'm a little bit upset as a Saints fan that he's left the NFC South, because we had a pretty good record against Matty Ryan. But I think for what the Colts are trying to achieve, it makes the most sense in terms of who's available. That team is very close to win now, or at least compete now. They're in the AFC South, which is it's a conference there for the taking. So I think it's probably a good move, and let's see. Look, the Colts have been quite unlucky since Andrew Luck retired, but I think this is a move in the right direction for them. Although being very short term, I think it's probably a good move. Obviously, the vacancy now with Matty Ryan moving out the way, in comes Marcus Mariota, the almost forgotten man. Ross, what were your first reactions to that move?
Well, I think overall, from the whole situation, from the Falcons' standpoint, I don't really see what the plan is. So initially, they were looking at bringing in Deshaun Watson, and then what I think happened then is, talking about alienating quarterback, I think Matt Ryan was a bit pissed off, but obviously he done it behind closed doors, and he said, look, just get me out of here if you're not going to do it, because I don't understand why else they would trade him and take that massive cap hit. So it's a bit strange for me, but bringing in Marcus Mariota, he's a steady hand. I don't think he's great at all, but he's played in the league before, and he's played with Arthur Smith before as well. So it's someone who's sort of fills a position, and then they can look to acquire a proper quarterback elsewhere if they like someone in the draft, for example.
Yeah, absolutely. Because what's the Falcons pick now? I think they've got about 9th or 10th. I think it is 8 exactly. So they could well be one of the earlier team candidates to be looking at a quarterback. So this could easily lead to a bit of an arms race as well, where it might force other teams to have to trade up to look at getting someone like Malik Willis. Look, I think the Mariota trade will be interesting. He's been out of the league for the year, or at least sort of sitting on the sidelines for a year, so he will be pretty rusty. But look, we've seen stranger things happen, and the NFC South is definitely a conference that has an opportunity there, and who knows, maybe it sort of reinvigorates and recharges the Falcons sort of batteries. Mike, in terms of the options that the Falcons have on offense, is there anyone there other than Pitts? Are there any other wide receivers? Cordarrelle Patterson? Do you think there's anything there for Mariota to actually work with?
It's difficult. He does like a tight end, though. He does like throwing a tight end. So Pitts hopefully get more reception. The problem with that is there's no other targets there. Going back to the draft, they've got so many holes they need to fill. Do they go quarterback in the first? Do they put that back a year? Do they try and get linemen? So there's so many holes in that side at the moment. And I think going back to what Ross said, what is their plan? Where the bigger picture on it? Do they Mariota is obviously a stopgap. He's not the guy they're expecting to take his franchise forward. As far as targets, Patterson's 31, I think he is now. So, and they're going to play running back, wide receiver, safety, centre, quarterback. they're going to play him all over the park, aren't they? He's found a comfortable home last year and did quite well. I think they've signed a couple of the running backs, I believe, to sort of fill the holes.
Damien Williams? Was that Damien Williams? Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just trying to see the list. And I think the guys they have signed are actually catching running backs as well. They're all quite good with their hands. So as much as they're lacking distinct wide receivers, they've got running backs they can dump off to if needs be. But yeah, I don't think it's a bright future for the Falcons next season.
Ross, am I right in saying that in my fantasy league in MFL has Cordarrelle Patterson's just been moved to running back officially? Is that correct?
Yeah, he was a wide receiver all last year, and when he played as a running back. Now he's officially been changed. But like Mike said, with the Damien Williams signing, you might think he's maybe going to be played more as a wide receiver this season. So yeah, they're a year behind.
Yeah, I think that's the one beauty in sort of roster wars. If you look at sort of the flexibility in terms of the lineups that we can set, obviously we've got 5 flex positions pretty much in each offensive, running back, tight end, wide receiver. So that is the freedom that shouldn't affect too much. But I know, for example, in the PP, the Koalas have Patterson at the moment on a 0-year contract. So it'll be interesting to see whether or not they think it's worth tagging or extending or even compensation tagging and seeing if anyone else wants him. But I'm sure we'll see. Look, let's stay in the NFC South. Obviously, it's a team close to my heart. We got the Saints. We got Jameis back. We missed out on Deshaun Watson. And it sounded like we clearly did everything we could to actually get Watson. I think he met with Gail Benson, the owner. He met with obviously Dennis Allen. We've pretty much matched the Browns' asking fee. I think it came down to obviously that guarantee money contract that really sort of swung Watson the other way. Obviously, I'm pretty biased, so I'll let you guys actually discuss this from the outside. But Mike, Jameis back to the Saints. Is this a good move for the Saints? What is your opinion of this?
Well, he knows the system, so it's an easy plug-in, carry-on. I assume that with the way the franchise is working forward, taking the new head coach from within, it should be a similar system rolling forward. He also is your QB too, right, behind Taysom. Taysom's your
yes,
starting
let's not forget.
Let's not forget that bit. I don't know. It didn't strike me as they were desperate to get a quarterback. If they got Watson, great, fine. But they've not gone looking for Jimmy G. They've not tried to bring another quarterback. So obviously Watson was the guy they wanted. They might as well now wait for the draft or wait till next year to see what they can get. I think he's a stopgap. He's not. I mean, he may have another amazing season like he was, with touchdowns, but it just needs to cut back on his 50 interceptions and 50 touchdowns season, whatever it was a couple of years back when he was at the Bucks. But he seemed to control it most last year. But is that him, or is that Sean Payton's coaching to keep him where he should be?
No, exactly. Ross, please interject before my cat gets blown off my head with anger.
Yeah, that was my thoughts as well, Mike, that in terms of, are they going to let him loose a bit more? Because they started the first 7 games. I think he was 5-2 as well. So that's your propaganda there, Nate. Definitely going to extend that. But they didn't let him off the leash. He didn't throw many passes. It was all run game defense. So even though obviously they've kept the offensive coordinator, as Sean Payton's not being there anymore, is he going to be slowly let off the leash and be able to be the Jameis we knew from Tampa, who was good and bad at the same time? But I think it's a good move from the Saints. I think that if you look at the division, they're now got the second best QB in the division. And with the NFC exodus that we've seen, he's surprisingly quite high up in terms of the NFC QB rankings as well. So it keeps the Saints competitive, and they've got a really good roster around them. So yeah, we'll see what they look to do for the future and how they address it. But box ticked in the QB position. Now, Nate, you can go ahead and tell me how you're going to win the Super Bowl and everything.
Well, yeah, I don't want to bore anyone yet, and again, I don't want to predict the future like I'm getting the reputation for on this pod. But no, I was pleased because I thought we were very close to losing out on everyone. I thought there was a big worry that someone like the Colts at the time, I think they were quite linked with Winston. I think the Steelers obviously briefly entertained that before Trubisky. So I was worried that we would be left high and dry with Winston signing elsewhere and Watson obviously turning and doing a 180 like he did. I'm pleased with Winston. He knows the system. He knows the guys in the locker room. It seemed, as you guys know, I'm a bit of a Twitter basher, and just the sort of feel on Twitter from a lot of the current Saints players was very positive. So yeah, let's see. I'm not going to count any eggs before they hatch, but Winston's got a good record against the Bucks, and hopefully we can do well in the NFC South, because it's going to be a bit of a scrap. I think a lot of wounded teams and teams that have got sort of nothing to lose tend to sort of come off well. But yeah, let's see how we go. I think the next thing is let's think of the wide receivers now. So let's just sort of sidestep across. And I know it was released, it feels like a week or a month ago now, but the Devontae Adams trade was obviously one of the big blockbusters of this free agency. Mike, again, the AFC West picking up a huge player. Devontae Adams has he done the right thing here? What's he thinking?
Well, he's followed the money, I think, and he's gone back to his old college friend. Is Carr as good as Rodgers? No. Will his output be as good as last few years? I don't know. It depends. I don't think you can put Carr in the same category as Rodgers. Rodgers is a definitely top tier quarterback.
I'm sure the Melosis would disagree, but
But I think Justin Fields is good as well. So maybe my opinion doesn't make an awful lot of difference on quarterbacks. But I think he's looked at the longer picture. I mean, yeah, one last go with Rodgers picking up his tag. He said very clearly straight away he didn't want to sign the tag. He wanted out. So I think he's done what's right for him. He lives in Vegas in the off season. He lives next door to Carr, I think, if I read somewhere. So I think, for his point of view, probably he feels quite comfortable going back to the quarterback he had at college. Yeah, there's obviously a relationship between the two of them. Will he be as effective? I don't know. I think you look at these figures. Him and Rodgers were the most completions and touchdowns, I think, since 2016 as a quarterback wide receiver pairing, which is it's very hard to go to a different system, different team, different quarterbacks and replicate those sort of figures. I guess we'll see, but I guess as we said in the last 4 podcasts, it's an arms race in that division. So anyone that's available and shiny, everyone's just trying to snap them up. Be it whichever side of the ball, if you've got a name and a reputation, they're all trying to sign them.
No, absolutely, and I think if you do sort of look at the trade. Sort of look at the details. I think it negatively affected Green Bay more than it positively affected the Raiders. I think, look, it's a huge signing for the Raiders. And it will only improve their team. Look, maybe Hunter Renfrow has an even better season now that he sort of has a bit more exposure. If Darren Waller comes back from injury as well, that Raiders team is going to be pretty exciting. Even with Josh Jacobs, who's a lot younger than people realize. He's only, I think, 24, and I feel like he's been in the league for about 4 or 5 years. It feels like he's been around for ages. So that Raiders team is trying to keep up with the Broncos and with the Chiefs and obviously with the Chargers. But now when everything was hunky-dory 12 months ago, we thought the Chiefs were on top of the world. Old Tyreek Hill does obviously a bit of a 180. Ross, do you think that Devonta Adams trade obviously spooked Tyreek Hill a bit?
Well, I don't know if it spooked him. I thought he got money signs in his eyes. Thought, wow, Devonta can get 28 million a year. I can get at least 29 million a year, and he ended up getting 30 million a year. And it's fully guaranteed after 2023. So it definitely sparked it. I think it sparked it from both sides. So it sparked Tyreek Hill saying, give me some money. And it sparked the Chiefs saying, oh, well, fair enough, we're not going to give you the money, but look what we can get in return for you. And then obviously went to the Dolphins and Jets and said, Devonta Adams is a first and second. We want that plus because he's a touch younger and he's maybe got a better... he's not playing on the franchise tag. So, it definitely sparked something. And I think everyone's fantasy value sort of gets hit. So if you look at Devonta Adams, I don't think he's going to be as good because he's got other mouths to feed in Las Vegas like he didn't have in Green Bay. And then Tyreek Hill is the same in Miami. It's a difficult one all round for fantasy owners.
Yeah, I think these 2 wide receiver trades were huge, and they're great for the league and they're great for the NFL fan. But as you've just pointed out, very more importantly, we all roster wars people here. I think the fantasy values of almost every player sort of took a hit there because Rodgers took a hit. You got a situation, obviously, where we're now, if anything, maybe Carr, obviously, he increases slightly, but the whole wide receiving corps is going to be quite overpopulated. And then even Mahomes now, we know how good Mahomes is, but with Tyreek sort of leaving, that hurts. That, in my opinion, that it hurts Mahomes and it hurts Tyreek. It will obviously help Tua now because he's got sort of a few more options to him. But Mike, the Dolphins, do you think they're doing the right thing here? They're obviously starting to spend quite a lot of cash here. The players that they've recruited so far?
Yeah, definitely. They've put their money where their mouth is. Really, they've got Hill, they've got Armstead. They're bringing in players around Tua, which is 12 months on from them trying to ship him out to Texas. So they've obviously decided to keep him. As far as Hill goes, has Tua got the arm to allow Hill to stretch the field? I don't think he has. I guess but then again, has he had, apart from, well, I think he's had a receiver that actually stretches the field like Hill anyway. So maybe we'll see some lot of arm crunches in the summer, and he builds up his arm quite a lot. But I think it does. I think it helps Waddle out. I think the Hill there. I think that improves there. So I think they've got, and Parker's still there as well. I think so. They've got quite a good set of 3 receivers at the moment. Gesicki, I think, has signed his tag. So I think the way they're working, and going back to Ross's point earlier, the Rams did it by signing vets and dumping picks. So that worked. So everyone's now following suit. So I think, like you said, copycat league, like Ross said earlier on. So people are seeing how it works, throwing first-round picks at wide receivers. It's a big investment, but the Dolphins want to bring their name back. They're in a division which the Patriots have dominated such a long time. They want to try and grasp that now while there's less talent in New England possibly.
The scary reality as well is that I stand to be corrected, but I think the Dolphins still have a first or maybe even 2 firsts this year, or first the next year from the Trey Lance trade. When the 49ers traded up, they gave Miami quite a bit. But look, I think, as you say, it feels like the Dolphins are trying to put a squad together there, because we can obviously control this and look at specifically the AFC East. We can look at sort of how well the Bills have sort of progressed. The Jets are obviously making little steps towards sort of improving. The Patriots seem like they would fall off a cliff and sort of have held their own, and the big Bill effect will always be there. But it's not just in AFC East. When you look at, we've been talking about this AFC West arms race, and the reality is they're all a part of the AFC here. And the AFC in general is an absolute powerhouse of a conference. And I think any team in the AFC, we talk about the Colts, we talk about sort of the Titans, the Jags, how much they spent in free agency. All these teams are trying to keep up with each other. The Browns, it's going to be some very upset teams missing out on wild card rounds here that have invested heavily. And I think there could be a lot of jobs and even quarterbacks and even roles and sort of on the chopping block. Ross, as our AFC East specialist, what's your take on what the Dolphins have done, and how does that directly impact the Jets?
Well, I think the Dolphins are better. So they've had a good off-season, but I think we can slow down a bit and put them in the playoffs. I think they've bumped up from just below the playoffs to maybe challenging for the wild card spots, especially, like you said, with everyone else around them getting stronger. And the thing that's holding them back is the QB. So it remains to be seen whether he can take the next step and produce the offense at a good level. And I think changing the coach as well. I think we'll just assume every new coach is going to be amazing and just bring this great. He's an offensive genius. He's going to be brilliant. But that still remains to be seen. I don't feel like you can judge head coaches based on being offensive coordinators. It's a different role. So that's a question mark. And then, I think they're thereabouts, and we'll see how it progresses throughout the season. If they make the right steps in terms of the QB and the coaching, then they can be a playoff team. And if they don't, then they'll be challenging for the Jets for the third place in the AFC East, above the Patriots. But I think obviously it sucks to be a Jets fan when we're competing for the same player and he goes to a division rival. So obviously it weakens us as well as improves them. But I think they're nowhere near the Bills yet for me, nowhere near. The Bills are just doing so much this off-season to just strengthen their position. And they've got the QB, they've got the coach, they've got the defense in place to challenge for the Super Bowl.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think, as you say, I think that QB, the whole setup there at the Bills is just it's been quite a change from sort of 2-3 years from Josh Allen's rookie year. It's been a real change because obviously there were loads of question marks behind Josh Allen after his first year. Ross, so you backing? Do you think? I think you should put a wager on with one of the boys, whether it's Haji or someone, and who's going to finish dead last in the AFC East. I think that would be a great spread bet because I'm on your side. I think Mac Jones has peaked in his rookie year. I don't think we're going to see anything more from Mac Jones.
Wait. Matt Jones is good.
Oh, here we go. We've got a Patriots.
I might have a few shares in him across some leagues. So
an undercover Patriots man. But no, I think that AFC East is going to be. It's going to have like its little sort of side story to it this year, and it's going to be a pretty interesting, conference to just sort of keep an eye on. Guys, yeah, before we sort of wrap up, were there any other trades or any other little things that you sort of wanted to sort of cover or look at, or any last comments? We obviously briefly, where do we think Baker is going to end up? Do you think he's going to get traded? Do you think they might try to keep hold of him, or?
I don't think they can keep hold of him, like
No.
not at all. But it just depends where he goes and for what price.
Yeah.
I guess the obvious spot would probably be the Seahawks.
Yeah, maybe
Because
the Panthers. I've heard the Panthers might be looking at him as well.
They've also been apparently sniffing around Jimmy G as well. I think Jimmy G, they won't trade him divisionally, right? They'll send him as far away from San Francisco as possible. So the Panthers is probably a better landing spot as far as the 49ers is concerned for Jimmy. Whereas, and also there's now a big question marks about Baker's mentality after his little tantrum, politely saying goodbye to Cleveland on Twitter. Is that a guy you want in your locker room? I mean, I appreciate he's obviously a bit upset that the rumours trading for Watson, and going back to Matty Ice. Obviously, he's politely, quietly in the background gone, look, you obviously don't want me here. Move me on. I'll go and play somewhere else for a couple of years. He's done it so publicly, it causes fractions. He's on a last year of rookie contract, so he's cheap. Does the Seahawks or Panthers take him on a cheap 1 year experiment? Then he can end up at Washington next year.
I think we could be waiting until after the draft. There's definitely a few teams in there who may like someone in the draft, but because it's so up in the air right now, if they don't get the guy they want, then they could pivot to Baker. And the Panthers, like you mentioned, I think they're all over the place.
Yeah,
they're just all over the place. I don't think they have a plan. They seem to be scrambling for a quarterback, and that's never a good sign.
No, they've been linked with Watson. They've been linked with sort of everyone under the sun, and they still got Sam Donald, who's I don't know if he's even QB1 there. Maybe it's still, what's his name, PJ Walker or someone. But I do think they could well be in for Baker. Sort of touching back on what you mentioned, Mike. I think it's difficult because I think, as you say, Baker was the prodigal son, the 101, the sort of the boy that's going to change this franchise. They were 0-16 or 0-17, whatever. I think it was 0-16. They were nothing. There was nothing for Cleveland there, and although it took a bit of time, they went on an absolute charge. Not last season. I think it was the season before when they beat the Chiefs, or they beat the Chiefs, Steelers. They beat the Steelers and almost beat sort of the Chiefs. And I think he's been poorly treated. I think he can feel aggrieved, but at the same time, he hasn't been exceptional. He's been sort of middle of the road, sort of good to fair. But yeah, I think he obviously needed to try and make a stance before this all came out, and he clearly knew the writing was on the wall. It's game over here. So he tried to get that word in before, which could be seen as naught and could be seen as not really winding your head in and sort of moving on. But who knows? The other sort of the other bit of news that I sort of read or saw was it would be quite interesting to see if the Steelers might be interested in him. Obviously, huge division or huge conference rivals. Then the AFC North. Where do you see Baker's talent compared to Trubisky on paper? Let's not even talk about anything else. Mike, you know Trubisky better than probably anyone else in the league. Who's better here, Baker or Trubisky?
Better at what?
The
question. Okay. Right. So the reason I say that is because Mike Tomlin has been on record this off season, so he wants a mobile quarterback. Is Baker a mobile quarterback? Trubisky's got wheels. He ran for his life for 2 seasons at Chicago, so the boy's he can get wide and get round outside the pocket. So he was getting killed week in, week out. So he's got legs. He can move. I think Baker's less mobile. Yeah. He's not as mobile. So if Tomlin is saying what he means, he wants a mobile quarterback, then Trubisky's probably a better option for him. Also, he's already in situ now. He's putting the playbooks in front of him. Whereas if Baker comes in a month's time, yes, there's loads of time to the start of the off season, but he's already a month behind. So I think the Browns. I don't think the Browns will send him to the Steelers anyway. But I think that, from what I've read, they want mobile quarterbacks. So that's pretty much probably why they haven't gone for half the rest of the guys in the market, because they want someone mobile. They would probably draft a rookie if they can with some legs on him, so they can change the way they play. Because Big Ben's been a statue for how long? He just get the ball, stand there, throw, get hit. Everyone bounced off Big Ben most of the time. So yeah, I guess it's time for a change.
Yeah, look, I think the Browns, where the Browns got this very wrong, is they somehow didn't facilitate the trade to get rid of Baker simultaneously. Because what they have done is they've shot themselves massively in the foot here, because they've ended up with their franchise quarterback who, whatever Deshaun Watson's going to face, he'll face. But the reality is they've totally destroyed any sort of strength of negotiation in owning Baker, because everyone knows Baker wants out. Everyone knows they've already got their quarterback. Everyone knows Baker's only got 1 year left on his contract. No team here needs to spend more than a fourth on Baker, and they could get him. They can even wait a year and Baker walks for free if they really want to, and keep all their picks. So yeah, it's a bit of a messy situation in the Browns, but that doesn't really bother me. If I'm brutally honest, it's the one sort of fan base that I really haven't come across. I don't really know many Browns fans. They must all live in Cleveland. We don't have any on Roster Wars, or I'm worried I'm offending someone.
I think there was one Browns fan. Read some. I'm sure I read some. One Browns. We got one Browns fan. I think. Other than that, everyone's a Bears fan or a Packers fan. Pretty much.
Yeah, obviously.
And the other thing is this devalues Jimmy G as well. Jimmy G, they wanted 2 first not long ago. What's he now worth? 2 seconds, a second, a third?
No,
when the market collapses on you, your value goes down massively. So they may even just cut Baker. I don't know how much money he's got guaranteed left in his contract.
They don't save anything, so they're due him 18 million because the 5th-year option. And if they cut him,
keep him,
they don't save any money, so they're still due him 18 million. So I think a trade might go down for like a 7th or a conditional 7th or something.
Anything to get him off the budget. Yeah, exactly. Makes sense. Makes sense.
Exactly. But look, guys, it's been good. Look, we've stormed through now 5 episodes. It's good to sort of run through this free agency and reactions and how the trades and how it's affecting the league. I look forward to once sort of free agency settles down, we get close to the draft, we can start talking NFL draft. Then we can start talking even roster wars, RFAs coming up soon. Everyone, I hope you make sure you get your tags. And I know the minors will get delayed slightly with the new onboarding, but Andy said to try and get it done by the 31st. So just make sure that there's no sob stories, no fines, no crying from anyone. But no, guys, it's been good. Another good evening, midweeker, a few beers, but keep well. And thanks for listening. And I'm sure we'll update you on the other trades coming up and what's more to come in roster wars. But yeah, thanks again, Roscoe, and thanks Mike, and have a good evening, guys.
See you guys soon.
Cheers.